Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? How is Europe today? And good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Hello to the audience. Coming in right now, I can see a few people are joining, and more will be joining now. I'm your host today. I'm Christian. I'm German. I'm based in Denmark and working in the ClimAccelerator space in EIT Climate-KIC. Today, we'll have a short agenda. We've got 2 hours of a session, and we'll talk about multiple things. First of all, a quick welcome, which I'm giving you right now. Then we'll do a bit of a meet and greet. We'll have a few minutes to do a meet and greet session for 5 minutes. And then I think we've got 2 blocks talking about the European clean tech ecosystem, where we want to present a bit what is happening in clean tech and climate tech in Europe in different regions and what are potential futures. Fourth, we'll talk about us shortly and especially about our ClimAccelerator efforts to just explain you and give you context for the next 2 sessions, which is about getting to know our ClimAccelerator partners and really deep diving into breakout sessions, where we have a breakout session on Central Europe, on Southern Europe, as well as Eastern Europe, where you can meet our partners, where you can all engage, think about collaborations, and think about future steps together. At the end, we'll do a quick of a closure and summary of these breakout sessions, and then you'll be open to connect in the future. Elisabetta will be our host and moderator today. She's in the background. She's organizing a lot. Hopin is an interesting platform where you have, on the left, a lot of different features. We are on the main stage right now. And then on the left, you'll see the networking area and you'll see the breakout sessions area, basically. So you can really look there. You can click around, you can see around and really try and play with it. It should be pretty easy. It should be pretty straightforward. On the right-hand side, you'll have a chat and comment button. So you can really ask any question and tell us who you are and where you're from. Please do so right now. Tell us who you are and where you're from. And in the meantime, Elisabetta will invite us for the networking session of 5 minutes, where you just have to go to the left on the networking button, and then we just connect with each other for a few minutes randomly. So I'll give the word to Elisabetta quickly. And in the meantime, please in the chat, tell us who you are. So right now, you should be able to join the networking sessions on the far left, which I can quickly show you right now. Just give me a second. And then there you can really connect with anyone randomly. And it should work pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And please do so. So maybe again, I'll show you the screen quickly where you can see it and find it. It should be pretty straightforward. I'll try and find it here on the left. Here, this is the whole event, right? We are on the main stage. This is all in German. Please jump into the networking session here on the left, basically. I hope this works for you. Again, on the networking session on the left. I'll join a quick networking session as well. So I can see a few people networking. I just had an interesting conversation with Amber, who's got an interesting vision to really build out specialized experts and let's say labor around solar, voltaic, etc. in Austria. So I hope you can all have some initial connections, but the idea of this event is to connect into the future. And really we'll have a breakout session later on in the second hour where we can really get to know each other in different regions of Europe. For now, I'll be focusing on two different parts. I will try to keep it short, but I want to talk a bit about the European ecosystem, and then I want to talk a bit about us as well. So just give me a second. I'll share my screen and a quick presentation. Again, ask any question, chat, and get connected also through the chat and the comments section on the far right. Right? We've got people and different team members of our organization in here, which might be able to really also respond to you directly. So let's talk about the climate innovation ecosystem, especially in Europe. We can see a lot of positive development in overall. Of course, there are European missions. We are working closely with the European Commission, with the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. And of course, there are these missions who are, let's say, the focus of the next 4 to 5 years in 5 different areas. And I think we will work a lot around these missions, and we've seen different small organizations, entrepreneurs, and bigger corporates also in cities focusing to work on these missions and participating in there. I think the first of them is really adaptation to climate change. That's a priority, and we really want to help the EU in supporting 150 European regions and communities to become climate resilient by 2030. The second one is then rather on cancer, of course, and we have to really beat cancer in many ways and to really improve the lives of those suffering from it. And you can see there are big numbers of people suffering from cancer. Third of all, we have to help restore our oceans and our waters. We see what is happening in the different rivers and different oceans, and I think we have to fight them from the source on towards the end of the whole life cycle. Fourth, very similar to the first one, is also the idea of generating 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030, where EIT Climate-KIC actually is very active in that net zero cities program and delivering and orchestrating big parts of it over the next years. And then the last one is also the soil deal. We have to take care of our soil in terms of agriculture and really be active to generate living labs and lighthouses to really transform and transition to a healthy soil by 2030. So that's one part, right? That's the bigger context. But when we go a step deeper, let's look at Europe. Innovations in climate tech, and this is a source by Soulmate Ventures based in Czech Republic. They are doing yearly climate tech reports. And here you can see on the left that, of course, most of the climate tech startups are active in Western, Central Europe, let's say, and in Northern Europe, the yellow and the green ones. But then you can see in Southern Europe and Eastern Europe, it's a small percentage. But we can see a rising amount of organizations being active in these areas and starting to generate more and more climate innovations and entrepreneurs. Of course, on the right, we can see there are more and more climate tech startups becoming unicorns as such. So we can see really on the right, there is a leading organization in Germany, UK, and France. And it's not just unicorns, it's startups are really successfully raising investments over the next years. So we can see there's a positive trend in overall. And if you compare Europe to the rest of the world, this might be a bit of a complicated graphic. You'll see Europe on the left, US on the left, Europe in the center, and China on the right, for example, where you can see in China, most of the climate-focused startups are more on mobility and transport, and a few of them in food and agriculture. In Europe, actually in the center, it's way more diversified. We've got a lot of mobility, transport, and food, and energy, and industry, manufacturing, even in built environment, let's say, and other like industries like carbon removal and storage and etc. And then in the US, it's similar, but we can still see there's a huge diversification in Europe. Of course, we have different countries, different challenges. So I think there are different innovators fighting different areas. And we can see that also looking at the investments, the US still receives the majority of the investment in climate tech, but then Europe is becoming second with, I think, around 34 billion US dollars, I think, last year in 2021. But if you look at the clean tech entrepreneurship sector, and we can talk a lot about this, I'm sure, climate-driven entrepreneurs always have certain cost disadvantages because they're way more capital and hardware intensive. They have challenges to compete with the economies of scale. they also have to fulfill certain regulations and certifications, and any type of pilot and experimenting product will take investments and effort to start basically. And I think climate technologies are still in a way new topics. We can see more and more angel and venture capital funds and even private equity funds investing into climate tech. We've seen different ones rising over the past months, but it's still a huge risk compared to software companies or digital ones who have higher scaling rates and a little less risk in a way. But we need more investments, and we need more help in the early stage startups who are in the seed phase and Series A phase to really start growing. And I think on the last point is the clean tech sector, and overall, as we've just seen, is very fragmented. There are a lot of different industries, a lot of different geographies in Europe, and we have to really guide them around to understand which is the best market where they can really scale in and grow in, not just in their country, but really across different areas of Europe or even the world, right? So I think Startup Genome here in the clean tech group is doing some interesting research every year. They just published their report last year, and I think there are more and more researchers coming up. But when you think about what can we, all of us, do and how can we improve it and make it easier for clean tech entrepreneurs to grow and scale up, I think we have to think about 3 different points. Capital is one of them, definitely, but smart capital under smart conditions and really sharing risks between different types of investors. Second, I think expertise is important. We have to bring in more content from both sides, not just the business side, but also the climate and product side into these organizations and startups to really help them grow. And then, of course, you always have to change on different levels of society, let's say, and also looking at the public policies. How can public policies incentivize investors, corporates to work with such innovations, and vice versa? How can they incentivize individuals and innovators to start their businesses and really grow? So I think, of course, these public policies should really generate demand. So I think that's, if you look at the 4 big quadrants here, it's around generating demand also, and really helping these passionate clean tech entrepreneurs to get connected to the market, to have corporates, small or big ones, to really be open and be risk aware, to create pilots and really to work with governments also to generate first pilots, first concepts, and transforming our societies in a way. So I think we can talk a lot more about this, I'm sure. And we can deep dive into any region in Europe in a way, where any region is very, very different. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes. But I think, of course, in Northern Europe, they have way different challenges than in Southern Europe. And you see the impact of climate is way different in Southern Europe versus Northern Europe, right? In Southern Europe, you see more impact in the Mediterranean regions on droughts or different usage of water and energy, for example. In the north, you've got different climates, different moments throughout the year where maybe different energy and water sources are needed. Waste treatment is important, circular economy is important in here. And then, of course, Central Europe has, again, different climates in a way and different challenges, different regulations, where I think in Germany and France, you have a lot more public policies and a lot more help in a way to enable climate innovators. And then in Eastern Europe, of course, you've got very diverse countries with challenges which are very different to challenges in Spain or in Scandinavia. And the access to capital in Eastern Europe is same to Southern Europe, is very different and more challenging in a way. Languages are different in that sense. And I think there are governments also who are working to change, but there needs to be a bit more on a public policy also to really generate a good environment to build out climate innovations. We can talk a lot more about this. There are different studies, there are different information, but I'll keep it short and happy to discuss this anytime in the future with any one of you. Again, feel free to ask any questions in the chat or comments on it, and we'll answer them. But let us talk quickly about Climate-KIC. So just a short introduction for the ones who don't know about us. And I think Kirsten, our CEO, is using this graphic a lot. And we all know about COVID. I think we know about the war happening in the background and there are certain crises and certain complexities rising. But we still believe climate change is one of the biggest waves also, and it can hit very hard and it is coming slowly from the far behind and we can see it definitely on the horizon. There are many studies around this and many expert opinions that we are basically 5 past 12 already. But I think we really need to be acting on different levels of society and on different levels of public and private institutions. So I think just in short, EIT Climate-KIC is really the means of taking effective action on climate and environmental crisis through innovation. On the one hand side, we want to transform cities and governments to open up and generate demand for climate innovations. And on the other side, we are helping to create climate innovations and really bring them to market and let both sides work together to really make a sustainable and long-term change. You could say that in a short phrase about us, I think, but really our vision is in the long term to generate a prosperous and a climate resilient society. And to do that in our mission, we really have to catalyze systemic change for climate action. It's not just about a simple or small product and service. We have to think about how can we fight the problem from the origin. How can we make long-lasting changes which are really changing and transforming our society? Not just changing a little bit of what we do every day. It's about why are we doing this every day and what are we exactly doing every day? And I think we're probably the largest public and private partnership addressing climate change and to really generate a net zero carbon economy. And the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, EIT, is supporting us. They're a body of the European Union and funded by the European Commission. So we're doing diverse activities and diverse programs, but I think here we want to really focus on where we're active, and then we'll talk a bit more about our climate acceleration efforts as such, how we help entrepreneurs. So to really generate a systemic change, we have to look at different industries and different sectors and geographies, of course. But let's say we are focusing on 3 different areas: cities, land use, and industry. And you can see in cities, of course, we have to focus on the ones emitting most carbon and emissions, basically. And that's where construction is one of the leading ones, unfortunately. I hope you don't hear the construction work just happening next to me, basically. So you can see it around, you can see it developing in a lot of parts of Europe. We have to focus on the energy-hungry buildings. Different seasons, different climates need different types of energy. So a lot of focus on there. On land use, we have to focus on both deforestation and also in farming, where we have to make a lot of substantial and systemic changes. And not in the industry, I mean, we know that we are still very dependent on coal for energy generation, etc. And there is a huge problem around waste. So we have to really treat them. We have to work on all of these areas through tough climate action and really change it. So let's talk a bit about our specific area of where we want to generate and empower change makers and innovators of tomorrow. We do a diverse set of activities. We'll start with the students and the young ones first, and then we'll go all the way up to the climate accelerators. You can imagine this as some kind of a funnel, let's say, because on the one hand side, to really make a change, we have to start with the young ones. So with the young innovators on the bottom left corner, we work with schools and pupils all over Europe to not just think about climate. We want them to start understanding where challenges are and start generating their own innovations also and teach them on how they can problem solve and innovate. Because that's something they may not use back then, but maybe in the future they have the method and the methodology to really innovate and change. And then I think on the journey and the pioneers, that's where we're working with students. In Journey, for example, we'll do summer schools and we work with students of all ages, of all parts of Europe, again, to really change them how they can make systemic changes and propose innovations to challenges. On Pioneers, we work with professionals, young professionals, old professionals who want to move into climate. I guess many of us have been in different industries before, in different areas before, but we decided for many reasons to move into climate. So Pioneers is a perfect moment and let's say, content to learn how to do that and to become active in that sense. Climathon is then the next step. So with all the, let's say, students and young ones and professionals on the left-hand side, the Climathon is about generating innovations and bringing citizens together so that they form groups, they sit down with the city, work on a specific challenge and start really generating a real innovation and product over a term from 2 to 3 days. And we've been doing these in multiple cities around the world. I guess last year it was 150 or more, and we're hoping to do it in 200 cities or more this year. So you can see we're building up the pipeline of innovations, and then on the Climate Launchpad and Climate Accelerator, that's where we want to help them to get the market in the Climate Launchpad, where it's about incubating them. They have their idea, but we have to help them to generate a business model and a product and service, basically, test it on the market, experience it, and start changing it. So that's why we have more than 50 climate launchpads, which we help around the world per country. And then the ClimAccelerator is then the next step. So there are entrepreneurs who are going through this whole cycle, and they now need help to grow. They have validated their product and service, they're active on the market, but they now really need help to start growing and to move into the future, and maybe even into different countries. So that's why we have more than 50, I think, ClimAccelerators now who hopefully start their programs this year. And around 20 of them are currently running their programs to really help these entrepreneurs scale. Actually, a last part, which is not here, but I think I need to add it, is our late stage help. So we do have a ClimAccelerator marketplace of investors where we try to connect investors with entrepreneurs graduating from our ClimAccelerator programs to, again, enable them and connect them to financing options so that they can start growing. And we're building out a small team where we have a portfolio of startups which we continuously support in the future, basically. So I'll just quickly talk a bit about the ClimAccelerator, because I guess that's the focus and that's the reason why many of you are here right now. And then later on, we'll get to know some of these ClimAccelerators directly. So the ClimAccelerator is really the idea of giving the startups access to innovate and catalyze and scale up. And we're having a model which we call Open ClimAccelerator. And the Open ClimAccelerator is a model where organizations in the world can apply to become an Open ClimAccelerator and do such programs, where we try to give them certain support and certain services and benefits to really help in their regions scale-ups to grow up, startups to scale. We used to do these ClimAccelerators in Europe in the past years. And over the past 7 years, I think, in different parts of Europe ourselves. But we really decided in the past 2 years that through working with partners and working with partners across the world, not just Europe, we can really improve and help many more startups scale up. So we want to bring this expertise, which we have in Europe, to different parts of the world. And I think accelerators have different problems. I mean, we really want to enable moonshots in a way, and we want to really educate and enable acceleration partners to improve their programs, to do high quality programs which can generate a transformational and real climate impact through these startups. And I think we want to help them build out their ecosystem. It's not just about one single accelerator. It's about a partner in Colombia or a partner in India who can really build out an ecosystem, who can run diverse types of programs across diverse ages, diverse geographies and industries, and can really hence change the ecosystem, involve many more stakeholders, private and public organizations, to come in, work with the accelerator, work with the incubator to really make change happen in a way. So just a quick one on the themes. I mean, we've seen a few themes in the past, cities, land, industry. So we usually ask our partners, what do you think in your country or your region, where should you work the most to really generate a transformational climate impact and change? Some of them say, hey, we have to focus on land and agriculture, for example. Or they say, hey, we have to focus on industry and carbon removal in different areas. Or we have to focus on energy, right? So they tell us, and really we need to understand it well to work with them together. And I think you'll see our ClimAccelerators and our startups even are active in very different industries and categories. So I think just to give you an idea of who are our ClimAccelerator partners around the world, I think we've got more than 50 now in different parts of the world. We will be growing in different regions. And the big idea is, and the vision, can there be ClimAccelerators in every part of the world and multiple ones in each country? Why? Because startups are more and more active to generate a climate impact and need help to grow. But let's see. I mean, if you want to get connected and think about doing a ClimAccelerator, we'll talk about this process a little bit later. Happy, you can always get in touch with me and I'll later share my contact details. We won't deep dive here right now. Let's do this afterwards. But I think the focus today is Europe. And the focus today is who are our partners in Europe. Here you can see a quick map. I know it's a lot of logos, but you'll see that we have partners across Central Europe, let's say, across Eastern Europe, very strong partners and consortia. Also in the Southern Europe, very active. So you'll see that we have different ClimAccelerators, especially the first ones on the left are ClimAccelerators who are made by consortia. So there are usually 4 to 5 organizations in different countries who are doing the carbon removal ClimAccelerator, or who are doing the Beyond ClimAccelerator in Southeastern Europe, or who are doing the Baltics and Slovakia ClimAccelerator also. So we have diverse, strong local partners who are working with us to make these ClimAccelerators happen. And that's why we are really trying to focus on different regions. And last but not least, I think we have multiple future ClimAccelerators where you can see their normal logos. Organizations in the south, let's say like Circular Inno Booster and so Coax. We have Growers for Change, or ELIA in the UK, and Excel Point in Poland, for example, where these are new partners who just recently decided to be active and do climate acceleration programs. And now we're trying to help them to get off the ground or to really improve the contents and quality of their activities. So you'll see there are many more, and there will be many more climate accelerators in the future. I think there's much more space also in the east and southeast of Europe, and also in Scandinavia still. But let's see today. Today we'll be talking to different ones, and we'll have two guest speakers today who are coming in to really present on what they're doing and who they are. We've got for Eastern Europe and Austria, we've got Clemens with us today. He is leading the incubation efforts of Tech2B incubator in Upper Austria in the north. Clemens will be the first one talking right now. He's got 10 minutes to talk about himself and his organization. And then we've got Andrew coming in from ELIA in the UK, Cambridge and London, who are actually doing a climate accelerator program right now. And they will also talk a bit more about their view on Central Europe in a way. On Southern Europe, unfortunately, we had a last-minute cancellation of the speaker, but I'll explain you a bit of what we're doing in Southern Europe so you can have an idea, and then we can also connect later on. These presentations, there will be breakout sessions for each area. So we'll have a breakout session in Eastern Europe where people who are curious about this can go in. We'll have a breakout session on Central Europe as well as Southern Europe as well. Then we'll have a breakout session on just a general audience. I'll explain this later. But let's see if Elisabetta can help us to bring Clemens on the stage so that Clemens can really present and talk a bit more about Tech2B. Hi, Clemens. How are you doing? You're muted, Clemens. I can't hear you yet. Wait, I think you're muted still. I can't hear you yet for some reason. I can see your screen share, but I can't hear you. Not yet, not yet, not yet. You may want to log out and log in again. Hi, Clemens. No, am I the only one, or let's see, no, can't hear you yet. Try without headphones. No, that's weird. Yesterday it worked fine, huh? That's an interesting one. Check on your browser settings if the microphone is allowed. When you right-click on your tab on the browser, if it's all allowed, or if you have to allow the usage of your microphone. You know, like in events, these things can always happen. We had a preparation session yesterday. We heard Clemens fine. It worked all very well, and now it doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, Clemens and Tech2B, they're very active in Austria. They're running diverse programs every year. He'll talk about it. But please, in the meantime, raise any questions you have in the chat about the European ecosystem or about EIT Climate-KIC. I'll be watching the chat, and with the team, we'll reply your questions. Feel free to do so, or feel free also to say if you want to get connected to Clemens, tell us, and we can really help you to then get connected. So just take some minutes to put in some questions, some thoughts, some comments. If not, get some water quickly. All right, so the team is telling me that we will switch. We'll continue with Andrew right now. Andrew Brisbane leading Elia in the UK. So let's see, Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you very well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me here today.
Great. So, Andrew, I think we started this relationship almost a year ago. I think you were one of the first ones with Elia to join us and work on a ClimAccelerator together. So tell us a bit more initially in a short summary about your experiences and your thoughts around this, and then please deep dive on Elia. Feel free to share your screen. There's a button on the bottom.
Brilliant. So I'm just organizing my screen so that you can all see clearly. Sharing screen, presentation there. Can we all see it okay? I hope so, at least. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great journey, honestly, for us, because what we have discovered over the last year is that there's so much to be done in the space, quite honestly, and that honestly going alone, it is going to be an immense challenge for us to be able to do so. So I think that's why for us to partner with you all, honestly, has been a no-brainer. It has been a powerful tool for us. And I think ultimately, when I tell you a little bit more about Ollie, you'll see how there's just such a natural synergy between what it is that you're doing over at EIT Climate-KIC, but also just what we're doing here in Alia. So hopefully this is a great moment for everyone to see the power of collaboration, to also see the potential of what the program can honestly do for others who are building ecosystems to address this obviously very meaty issue. Let me jump in to tell you a little bit more about Alia and some of the work that we've been doing over the last year. Click. So Alia as an organization is a charity and a social enterprise that has been built on trying to find ways to accelerate the impact of those who are doing good things. And obviously the climate concern, a crisis, is one of these issues. And so we do that through three primary vehicles. And the first one is our workspaces, where we create space for impact startups, impact charities, impact organizations to get cost-effective rates in order for them to have an ecosystem to thrive in. We provide some social finance vehicles for individuals working in large-scale funding needs. So we're talking millions, not typically for startups, but for more risk-averse organizations, And then the third part is we have our support programs, which this Climate Accelerator that we have partnered with you all on has been through. And so we found that having this three-pronged approach to serving people, we're able to address multiple issues within the ecosystem, try to provide them with a methodology or a vehicle for amplifying their impact. And we very much care that we can create new and modern tools for serving people, because ultimately we recognize that this is a very fast-moving space, and for us to be able to sitting on our hands, it's going to be a challenge for us to really get anywhere when there's so much change and so much movement in the broader ecosystem. So we very much try to push ourselves to be lean and to take on some of the startup methodologies that we share with the Climate Accelerator cohorts. And we're hoping that we're a good role model for that journey. Through our work, we've supported over 2,000 ventures. This does not include only Climate Accelerator ventures. We work across tech for good as a whole. And so very much a theme for supporting kind of alternative vehicles for how we address the change. So it's not just traditional venture track startups, but also including not-for-profit organizations, social enterprise, B Corp, et cetera. We want to be an empowering vehicle for them so that they can actually take their impact to scale. We've created nearly 5,000 jobs through the work that we've done, and we've issued bonds that have supported over $1 billion in charitable finance. And so throughout this journey, we have really pushed ourselves to say, can we define that impact? Can we showcase that actually there is a tangible benefit for participants? Because ultimately it's unacceptable for us to be simply saying we're doing good things, but to prove and track that that's actually happening. And that's actually a big objective, of course, of collaboration, is that we're able to measure our collective impact and see if there are ways that ultimately we can build upon the success of others. And so at the same time, affect a change for our beneficiaries, who in this case are entrepreneurs, founders, and the like. So it's been an amazing journey so far. We can hope to continue to scale these numbers even further to support as many people as possible. In our Climate Accelerator cohort, we actually have the ventures that you see on the screen. Apparently, I laughed a little bit. There's a big theme for green colored logos when we're looking at Climate Accelerator ventures, as you can see. But it's been really fun because the ventures have been very diverse. On the screen, you'll see some that are focused on bioenergies. You'll see those who are using innovations within LED technologies at Kubo Semiconductors. We have micromobility transport through FLIT. We have also, and through Cambridge Electric, we have those who are working in the entertainment sector, trying to decarbonize the sector and figure out creative ways to support them. And then we have seed coatings up at C360, energy sourcing. And so, yeah, it's been really diverse, and it's been really exciting because ultimately you usually don't get that kind of diverse approach to solving issues. And one of the things that I think has been a key learning for us is that when we have all these diverse ventures, is that there's a great amount of synergy that comes from just sharing these diverse perspectives, right? It's, for us, we find it more beneficial to have ventures that are on different stages of their growth, as well as different kind of, I guess, issues that they're trying to solve when it comes to the topic or the theme. And we find that to be very robust. The Climate Accelerator cohort that we've been working with has been extremely productive in engaging with each other. And I think that that's another element that we need to build upon, because, you know, obviously in a day and age where people are, I guess, so virtual, we need to capitalize on that experience and see how can we collaborate with others outside of just our cohort. How do we build on the broader ecosystem? And it's not easy. You have to be very purposeful about it. You have to dig into that adventure and be aggressive about saying, okay, I want to engage productively with those who are partners outside of the UK. Alia's work largely focuses on the UK. So, you know, for us, it's quite challenging to say, okay, how do we meaningfully create value for partners who are outside the ecosystem? So we have to be intentional about that process. And we hope that, you know, as we grow in this journey, we'll become better at it. So we're not all perfect in this journey, and recognizing that it is okay for us. I wanted to kind of highlight some key lessons that we've learned over the past year in this journey. And, you know, obviously there's the power of partnership. There's no doubt that this collaboration with EIT Climate-KIC has been a massive success, honestly, because for us, when we look at where traffic is coming from, where interest is coming from on our website, we've seen a whole newsletters and ecosystems of our marketing material that have come like 50% from you and Christian and the team. So I just want to say thank you so much for driving that energy and the awareness, because ultimately it's not something that one single organization or person can accomplish. It takes all of us coming together. And hopefully, you know, we'll be able to build on that. The other issue that we've kind of observed is that there's a funding gap between the early stage innovations around those who are in the academic space going to early stage commercialization. So if you are someone who is interested in addressing this issue, I would love to speak with you and get to know you, because ultimately it's quite hard to say, you know, how do we take something that is obviously maybe only lab stage and take that to being a point where we can actually go into commercialization. It's unfortunately heavily dependent on grants at the moment. And maybe it's right or wrong, but, you know, we probably need to look into this space, because that's how we're going to see new solutions created for the climate crisis. And I've seen that with some of the ventures that we've worked with in this cohort, as well as in the ventures prior to this. The third, ecosystem builders. We have to be really innovative about how we approach funding for ourselves. I think the established methodologies of saying, oh, let's turn to government, or let's turn to corporations to support these various cohorts and sponsorships, and etc. Those things work for people. Not to say it doesn't, but ultimately I think we have to be quite creative, because there's a limited pot of cash, right? And ultimately you're going to be competing with people like, I don't know, let's just say the Sequoia ARC Fund, where they're doling out 100 grand, and, you know, that's pretty aggressive. So how do we create solutions that are meaningful for people, and at the same time create sustainable finance for these organizations who are key to the ecosystem? We have to be creative about supporting the broader ecosystem and pushing ourselves to innovate on that. So that's something that we've reflected on, and we're trying to do something around revenue participation agreements to support our founders. So let's see what innovations come over the next year, but we're really pushing on that. And despite what I was saying earlier about the virtual connections and collaborations, we have to be very, very cognizant that at the end of the day, we're all very human and people matter. This whole process of engaging with each other virtually is brilliant. It really enables us to connect amazing minds across Europe to those startups that are here, as well as to bringing in the commercial opportunity for a greater impact. But at the same time, each of us, we have discovered that in our workshops and in our sessions, that you just can't replace some of that human authenticity of being with each other. And so hopefully as we've kind of stabilized this process of moving beyond COVID, that we're able to engage more productively in person and be able to be intentional about it, because there's still plenty of events in my mind that stand out from the past where we just mingle and we're not necessarily getting something out of it. And I think we can really change the world and address this climate crisis if we're intentional about how we connect with each other and support each other in this journey. So if you're interested in engaging, I would love to have a conversation. I would love to have a coffee if you want to be in person. And we really hope that you get something out of this opportunity to realize you can be part of the greater picture of solving this crisis that we're in when it comes to the planet. So Alia is part of this journey, and we hope that we can continue to collaborate with you. And Christian, you and the team have been amazing. So thank you so much for that. And that's what I have for my 10 minutes.
Thanks, Andrew. Very, very interesting insights. And I think your last points, all of 4 of them, are very important. And I think we couldn't agree more. It's really about like collaboration in that sense. And people matter. Of course, we have to be more physical again, but we want to use such events to really facilitate networking also. And I think you're a strong organization in the UK and very active in Cambridge and London and close to key stakeholders in that sense. So I think we really enjoy working with you guys. And I think that's the idea. Can we bring in more partners and organizations to work with you also in the future?
Indeed.
So thanks, Andrew. We'll see you in the breakout session around the Central Europe, let's say.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Andrew. And again, to the audience, if anyone has any questions or wants to get connected to Andrew, just shoot him a message in the chat here. We can do so. Andrew can share his contact details. So please do so. All right. So you can see in the chat, and there are a few quick last-minute changes happening, but I hope we can now speak to Clemens again from Tech2B, and hope his voice works now. I can hear him.
I hope it is working right now.
Perfect, Clemens. How are you doing? Good morning.
I'm so glad. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christian, for this event. It's a huge opportunity for us to represent Tech2B in Climate-KIC. I've got some slides with me. I would like to introduce you to Tech2B and give you a quick overview about our programs. So, first of all, my name is Clemens Zinner, and I'm working for the University of Upper Austria and Tech2B in the field of spin-off consulting and startup consulting. And I've brought some slides for you to give you a quick overview. First of all, Tech2B is a publicly founded startup incubator based in Upper Austria in Linz. And historically, there's a lot of industry in Upper Austria. And this is the reason why numerous projects in this area are attending Tech2B. And on the other hand, we have also strong partnerships with schools and universities. And I would like to say that Upper Austria is the #1 state of industry within Austria. So this is the reason why we're cooperating in a strong partnership with this industry. Tech2B was founded in 2002. That means that we are existing for more than 20 years right now. And in this time, we have conducted more than 400 projects. Each project of us is supervised by an external mentor who is from the branch who has experience in this area. And in this time, we have gained a pool of about 150 mentors who are working in this project with us. Each year, we accompany about 40 startup projects, and we've got a specific area in which we've got partnership with companies. And in this time, we build up I think quite a good number of about 50 partnerships. And in this network, we are able to connect the corporates with the startups very early so they could benefit from each other. So what we are doing in the focus of sustainability and green tech at Tech2B, we've got this specific focus on sustainability for quite a couple of years. And we are contributing the future of our planet by combining the 2 areas of innovation and sustainability, what we are calling at Tech2B innovability. And we are driving and promoting projects with a positive impact in the areas of climate, social, and economy. And this is very, very important for us So we specifically do not support startups with a negative impact on the environment. This is like in the DNA of Tech2B. So which startups are we promoting right now? We've got numerous startups with a potential for a sustainable business model on one hand, and on the other hand, we have got quite a huge number of startups with a business model in a future-oriented industry and also green tech startups. So we became partner of Climate-KIC early 2002 in January. And we are very, very glad that we have got the partnership with you, Christian, because we have learned so much from this initiative within the last month. So we gained a lot of valuable inputs for the incubation programs, and quite a number of this we could focus within the incubation program. So, for example, we've developed and expanded the know-how and the competence of all the consulting colleagues within the startup consulting. We've learned a lot of the partnerships or the work with all the partners with best practice learning and sparing the ideas. So this was very, very important for us to see how the other have done such an incubation program with the focus on sustainability. Thanks to your toolbox, we've integrated some of the tools with the focus on sustainability into the consulting. So that means we could, we started to bring up a sustainable business model, for example, and this helped us very, very in a huge number to bring this to the startups here. Right now, and this was also an inspiration out of the partnership with Climate-KIC, we are currently developing a sustainable assessment tool. With this tool, we want to evaluate the impact of an idea when they are attending Tech2B. And after the incubation program, when they can use the tool for a second time, we want to show the impact they have gained within the incubation. And these results can be compared at the end and the beginning of the incubation program. And so we can show the improvement in terms of sustainability. And this was one of the most important lessons we have learned from Climate-KIC, that it's quite useful to bring the idea of sustainability very, very early into the startups. In our case, it's really at the moment when they are attending Tech2B. So this is a quick overview. I'm looking forward to meet you all in the breakout sessions where we can maybe exchange some of our ideas, have a coffee, and talk about your experience within the sustainability topic. So thank you very much for this quick overview.
Thanks, Clemens, as well. And I think I especially like the fact that you have been active for 20 years and have connected innovations with more than 50 corporates. I think that's very powerful, and that's a very strong help for these innovators. So continue doing this, and we'll do more in the future. And to the audience, raise any question to Clemens, and we'll see him in the session around Eastern Europe. All right. And then last minute. Thanks, Clemens. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Last minute change. We have seen this. Sharam should be now with me. There I can see him clearly. Can I hear you, Sharam? Tell us something. You're muted. Tell us something.
Hello. Hi, Christian. Can you hear me?
How are you doing?
I'm not having problems with the mic today, no?
Just put it a bit closer to your mouth. I think it's a bit just feels like it's
okay. Yeah.
Is
it
perfect.
Better now? It's better.
Perfect.
Okay.
Welcome, Sharam. So Sharam is active in Southern Europe and Spain, and that's why we've got him here last minute to talk a bit more about that region and talk about COAX as well and Humanation. So Sharam, please go ahead. You've got a little less than 10 minutes, and please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Thanks very much, Christian, and to all the community for letting me be here. It's very interesting work, and I'm just going to see if I can share my screen. Is that okay? Just to...
Sure. There's a button down there.
Okay, so I'm just improvising a little bit, but we're ready to go. So here I have the...
Perfect.
You can see it? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this is the project that we are, we've actually joined the ClimAccelerator from the beginning, but it's been a European project. So we had a year last year to set it up. In March, we kicked off the actual program for the first time. So we've been very busy onboarding the startups and been working with them through the program that we actually set up to support them. So as you can see, we have the membership of the ClimAccelerator and the partners of this European project that are listed here. I'll run through them. And actually, just yesterday, I was in the IED, the Institute of European Design, who's leading the projects in their headquarters in the Barcelona, doing a presentation for the EU Green Week. So we were official partners. So that was all very nice from the visibility and actually the getting the startups to present their projects there, and also for others to be able to see the great work they're doing. So just very briefly, this is a European project. It got 1,128,000 budget, of which 75% EU contribution for the COSME program, which is now called the Invest EU, which is under the Invest EU SME branch. So it's quite an interesting program for you to bear in mind. That is a cascade funding where the funds we receive, we also have to support the 30 SMEs that we finally selected of the 100 or so that applied. So we're one of 4 of these projects all across Europe that were selected. They are ongoing in parallel. So we made an even bigger community of some 120 SMEs that are now participating in the whole program in parallel. The challenge is to make fashion and textile industry more circular. Of course, that also means actually recovering some of that industry, because most of it got lost and went to China, Turkey, and Bangladesh, as you know, who are the main producers, but also where most of these greenhouse gases are being emitted. Some 10% of overall greenhouse gas emissions, more than aviation and shipping industry as a whole, is attributed to the fashion and textile industry. So that was a lot of shocking facts. We know how polluting it is, especially the fast fashion. We know also that it spans across, it's a very, let's say, transversal industry, spanning across many of the SDGs, all the ones in yellow that we identified here. So it's actually something that's dealing with it, as with food industry, for example, it touches on many different SDGs. So just something to bear in mind, these are the partners. So we are a startup accelerator, let's say, ourselves, because it's a young accelerator. So we need to be accelerated ourselves, which is why we're with ClimAccelerator. And we have some startups like the Circular Project and Human Nation, where I am also participating in this. Circulab has been around a bit longer from France. IED is a leading design school. Tex4 is the Confederation of the textile industry. They've been around for a long time. They're the biggest confederation of the industry in Spain. And Finova in Brussels supports all the alliances and communication. We give some support to the SMEs, of course, some money, but also importantly, of the SMEs that got selected, the 30 that are now with us, I just share with you, we give them all this technical support with the group of experts that we pulled together from the partners, and also we offer them coaching and specifically courses, and also some optional events that they can participate with. So we've created this program. These are the kind of, let's say, catalog of courses that we offer. So we pulled that together, and we created a nature-inspired kind of program of, spring, summer is a slowdown period, and then we accelerate again this autumn. So I just wanted to say that, without going into all the details, that I'm very thankful for the support from Christian and the team, Emily, and all the whole ClimAccelerator team, because specifically we are now exploring the toolbox, which we have to build in. But so far, we've been looking at the continuity of the program, because the thing about European projects is always the challenge of, once you get the funding, it's all great, but what do you do after that? And one of the additional challenges we have also, so that's where we got some support already. Of course, the business modeling, the revenue modeling of the project itself, but also the data-driven approach to be able to measure the impact. So that's something we have pending an appointment with Christian to now get into the details of how do we measure the impact, and also to demonstrate that the program is working and measuring that going forward. So the toolbox, we're very excited to go through that, as we said. One of the things to point out about this challenge of this project is when we applied, we said we don't want a typical accelerator that looks for VC funding and wants to create rockets that go up into the moon, and so forth, because at the end of the day, if we want to create a slow, conscious, let's say conscious regenerative accelerator where we're promoting conscious fashion and textile that's aligned with nature and put planet and people above profits maximization, but of course looks for economic viability for these projects, then we can't have a typical accelerator. So we said we want a de-accelerator, a slow accelerator in that sense, because we want to accelerate slow fashion and slow textile industry. So that's a challenge, because now we need to build an ecosystem of conscious coaches, conscious experts, conscious investors. Tell me where they are, please. I'm looking, there are many around there. We're finding that there are many out there, but as you know, the whole ecosystem for the last 40, 50 years has been based on an economy on steroids. That's completely different in its architecture, in its whole design. And therefore, the typical places to look for experts for funding are not to be found. So we have to we're actually creating the whole ecosystem. So that's why we're saying we're ecosystem builders, because we have to create from scratch. We can't just inherit the Silicon Valley model and bring it into a regenerative culture, in a regenerative space where we have to deconstruct and reconstruct a different kind of world. And that requires a lot of systemic design thinking, let's say, but also bringing a lot of people together to recreate that. As we know, even with the ESG and the kind of funding coming from VCs is not going far enough, because it's constantly, every time you scratch a little bit, you get, unfortunately, exposure that they're not going deep enough into and going fast enough into tackling the climate emergency in the short time we have to reach a reasonable degree of warming of the planet. So this is all, I think, something that we hope to also replicate in other industries, like in tourism, which is a very important cross-sectoral also industry. In the food and agro industry, it's very important as well. So we're using the fashion and textile a bit like an experiment also to see how we could replicate this model through other projects. And I hope to be working, because the climate impact would be, I think, quite enormous if we can scale and replicate, and scale in the sense of replication, and create zebras rather than unicorns, which is our aim. We say we want to create communities of strong, resilient SMEs, relocalize the industries, shorten the value chain, and rebuild our communities and create these zebras. And the unicorns will be there as monopolies, of course, but we need to now recover our economy and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharam. Very good summary. And I think it's an interesting pilot you're creating right now of diverse partners. And I think that's the idea. How can we continue this in the future? And how can we help multiple startups and small businesses to not just become unicorns, but also to really properly grow and have a long-lasting impact? Thanks, Sharam. And again, to the audience, if you have questions, let Sharam know. And Sharam will also share his contact details, I think, in the chat as well. Thank you, Sharam.
Thank you.
So
thanks very much.
Yeah. So now we'll do a quick exercise.